Hey guys, it's Daniel. I have a very quick video, not my usual breakdown that you've seen the past few times with McCain and Tulsi. This is something I thought was, how do I say, interesting. We all know that mainstream media likes to pick and choose the winners of the elections way before they happen. We know Kamala Harris has gotten private meetings and donation and fundraising events with various mainstream media organizations. And I noticed that MSNBC was doing a lot of coverage on Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke, the gentleman who takes more money than any Democrat from the fossil fuel industry and is only beaten by Republicans in the form of his person he lost to, Ted Cruz. So I sat down and thought, okay, so this is a guy who progressives have fallen out of love with, who for a period of time had the support when he was going against someone as schwarmy as Ted Cruz. How is MSNBC dealing with it? And I had a hypothesis. It's very simple. If we just go with how MSN deals with news, Beto and Biden are going to have the most coverage at them because they are very predictable at mainstream media. When Kamala came out, they gave her a huge amount of coverage. When Cory Booker came out, they gave her a huge amount of coverage. Now, Bernie Sanders and Warren and Tulsi and Yang again is kind of in the peripheral for this progressive, but I thought it would be a good experiment to see who's actually getting covered. I put together this document listing all the times that various candidates have videos put on MSNBC in the last month. So let's start with the top. So we have Beto in just the last 48 hours has received over, and I'm going to have these all in the description, 10 different videos on Beto O'Rourke. 10 different videos on Beto O'Rourke. A guy who is polling not that well, who regular people aren't all that interested in yet. He's getting lines and lines and lines and lines of coverage. And all of this within the last 48 hours, and I even have it highlighted. That's 5 per day. We have, scrolling downward, Biden, who hasn't even technically announced, even though we're pretty sure he's going to announce. He's doing very well. He's getting 2 videos every 7 days. Again, last month he got 8 videos. Not even in the race, but mainstream media loves him. Now let's go a little bit, let's see what happens if we go to the front runner of the race, Bernie Sanders. Look at that. The front runner, who is by every poll getting the most support, he's getting crowds everywhere he goes, just like the last time he ran, is only getting a video every 5 days. 6 videos last month on MSNBC, which is less than Biden, who hasn't even announced officially, even though he will eventually. We scroll down to Warren. Warren, who is doing far less than Bernie Sanders by a long shot, is, as you can see, getting a video every 6 days. And a lot of it's due to the recent legislation she's putting in. I'm going to have these all linked so you can look through them yourself. Now we get interesting. Tulsi and Yang have gotten no videos in the last month. Now, the only reason I bring them up is Tulsi and Yang they can argue, and I think is a fair point for the news to say, hey, they're not polling really well, even though part of the reason they're not polling really well is we're making them look like garbage, as you've seen in my previous videos, or at least Tulsi. Yang's getting a lot warmer reception, which I think is a negative. He doesn't have the same enemies, and he's not making them, which worries me, but I think he's a healthy addition to the race. How it's fascinating how this breaks down. This is what it looks like when the mainstream media wants to push an edge on someone. They do coverage after coverage after coverage. They talk about someone non-stop. And when it's Beto, it's, oh, here's a video with his wife, here's how great he is, oh, well, progressives love him. There was only one video I saw that was overtly, ooh, he might have some issues, and that's when they were saying that he's not doing well with progressives. Again, he's not polling that well either. And he's going to have some trouble making money unless it's from oil. Biden, like I said already, Biden's always the favorite. He always comes in. He always goes into Iowa. He always goes to New Hampshire and then drops out at some point because everyone's like, right, I don't like Biden. Biden has a very similar thing to Hillary Clinton, and the more he campaigns, the worse his approval rating is. And especially with all the quotes that have come out from him after Martin Luther King's assassination about segregation and how he doesn't want to desegregate areas, and all these other quotes he's made about women and just the general creepiness you get. Because I know for a fact that the second he runs, there's just going to be a compilation on the internet of him basically putting his nose in little girls' ears, telling them something with a whisper. It's very creepy. That's going to catch up to him. I'm not worried about Biden. He always just self-destructs. But what is very interesting is, again, how Sanders and Warren are getting actually pretty similar coverage, even though Sanders is the frontrunner. Sanders is objectively the frontrunner. I mean, completely. There's no one that's going to deny that Sanders is the frontrunner. The only speculation is that Biden might, due to certain polls that were connected to old people, rich old people on landlines, said otherwise, which is Biden's demographic, is rich old people with landlines. So if you want to see and you want to show someone in a physical way what this bias looks like in the numbers, if you like the analytical side of this, scroll down to the bottom of the description, check out all these videos for yourself, but look at the numbers. The numbers mean everything, because if they do one good story on Bernie Sanders and only a few people see it, it almost doesn't matter. If they keep doing story after story after story about how terrible Tulsi Gabbard is, and on top of that, we made a prediction, and if you followed me for long enough, you'll remember this prediction, that if Tulsi's doing well, they're just going to stop reporting on her because she's doing well, and the smears aren't holding weight. We saw exactly this when Bernie Sanders ran, that he was doing really well whenever he was on TV, so they just cut him out. And what do we see here? Well, they can't cut Sanders out. He's too big. Like I said, it's still a numbers game. It's still a rules for rulers setup. So Sanders still has too much power for them to ignore because he's making too many waves and they're too big. But Tulsi or Yang, well, they can be ignored. This person represents peace and a lack of fighting in the Middle East and a new foreign policy that hurts the military-industrial complex. So they tried to smear her. You know, I covered the thing with Colbert and how disappointed I was, and how every interview she's done has been the same, but every time she's managed to get the audience on her side. This is exactly what that looks like. This is exactly what we would expect. This is exactly why Tulsi's not in the news, because she still does well and can overcome the smears. And early on when she was first dealing with these, I was talking to Kit, and I said, we know if she succeeds, if she can get over these kind of attacks. And she's gone on TV a bunch. They've smeared her with the exact same smears every single time. Why is Beto not getting hit with his oil money all the time? Because it's positive from the news point of view. This is all, remember, this is from the point of view of a corporation that's owned by Comcast. This is what it looks like. I didn't want to do something too long, but this is what it looks like when you break down by the numbers what they do. It's all a matter of scale and size. Someone like us couldn't really take advantage of this, but the news is. So remember, the news, corporate media, isn't your friend. You're its product. And what they are selling is propaganda, and it is paid for by giant corporations trying to keep their dinosaur business models in check. And in fact, corporate media's own model is threatened. And if someone like Tulsi or Yang, I actually don't know enough about Yang to say Yang, but maybe even Warren or Sanders can get into the presidency, they're worried. And they're going to show that by who they talk about. Because they aren't news. It's just propaganda by another name. It's just state media by another name. I mean, CNN recently almost had a Trump executive or whatever she was be one of the editors with veto choices and show choices and editorial control on CNN. They aren't interested in news. They're interested in controlling the narrative. which they're having a much harder time of doing. This is Daniel. I'll see you next time. Did you like that video? Are you not subscribed? Okay, you are now? Fantastic.